up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming, those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
We've been surprised over the years with the amount of technology or the actual cleverness in the design that's gone into some of the cars.
You should be able to follow the progress of me as I walk totally across the back of this car.
At 270 miles an hour, I think we're approaching the maximum speed.
Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 88, a program for you, the driving audience. And what you're looking at here are a couple of old friends. A 1969 Firebird convertible, another 1969 Firebird, but this one is a Trans Am, and 69 was the first year that the Trans Ams came into production. And later on we're going to meet their owners. But first we're going to talk about fuel economy. Not exactly a high priority for these drivers, but our Sandra Neal recently discovered that a gallon of gasoline can go a long, long way with a little effort. There goes a gallon.
We decided to go for this modular space frame.
We look for other ways to reduce the rolling resistance.
A little more accurate than most of the other teams here.
Well, I've never seen anything like this. Believe it or not, these vehicles have been designed to be functional. Their purpose is to strive for the ultimate in fuel efficiency.
Nobody else out there, so you might as well choose. Oh, great.
This is the 12th annual Shell Fuel-a-thon here in Oakville, Ontario. Now, the competitors are engineering students from across North America, and they've spent the entire year designing and building cars that they hope will make the mark.
Well, we're talking vehicles that are specially designed for this. It's not something that you and I can go and take in and tow the trailer and run the air conditioning all summer long. It just doesn't work that way. These cars are taking technology and pushing it to the extreme. So we're talking lightweight cars that carry one person in a safe manner, lying down generally, no stereos, no air conditioning, and no food in the car. So it's very difficult. But they design these things. They're made out of aluminum, they're wood, plastic. They use motorcycle, even model airplane engines to achieve this kind of fuel economy. We've been surprised over the years with the amount of technology or the actual cleverness in the design that's gone into some of the cars. A lot of these vehicles are very smooth surfaced here. They have very high tire pressures like they do in the production vehicles.
And they make a lot of noise?
Yes, we don't have a muffler requirement here or emission controls, yes.
Jim, you got a knife? What's a knife?
Yeah, at our school we have senior projects, and the others, they get built, but there's no pressure. Ours, we have to build it, it has to run.
What are these for?
These are our headsets so that we can speak to our driver while he's coming around, make sure that he's got the right time. If he's got any problems, we can talk about that.
So the pressure's on.
The pressure's on.
Shamo 2 and Carleton University S-Car.
As far as we know, this is the first fuel-injected mileage car that we've seen, especially at this competition anyways. So we're just hoping we qualified yesterday and we were happy about that. And we're just hoping to be competitive, and then next year, of course, it'll be perfected and they'll do a lot better.
I would say this is the best that we can do so far. We've got it as light as it can and as small as we can, and we'll go from there.
Well, we designed our vehicle around our driver, which is a nice small girl, weighs 95 pounds. She's very light, very flexible, and she's a good driver because she's a pilot. We have visibility, to all our functioning parts. If anything goes wrong, we can instantly see what is going wrong, and of course gives the driver a little bit more comfort being able to see all the way around her.
Well, we have a glass bomb that's been specially made. That's a glass cylinder, and we weigh the amount of fuel before the course attempt, and then we weigh the amount at the end, and the difference in mass is simply converted into miles per gallon.
So this is the magic fuel, Jim?
Yes. It's formula shell unleaded. The more fuel left in there, obviously, the better you've done. That's the object of the game, to use the least amount of fuel.
2 years ago, this university's entry, the University of Saskatchewan, made history with an entry that traveled 5,691 miles to a gallon. But most of the entries today are hoping to break the 4,000-mile mark. Still not a bad feat. Are you guys hoping to beat the world record set by your school?
Well, we'll give her a good shot, I think. I think we got a good chance. It's just how the wind blows, how the motor runs. There's too many factors to say.
The University of Saskatchewan seemed to have an extreme technique, and they certainly have a good past history, so I'd expect a good result from them today.
So speed is not a factor in this competition?
Well, it's a factor, but that's not going to determine who the winner is. It's certainly not the fastest car. It's the overall technique employed.
Well, this year's competitors didn't break the world record set here 2 years ago, but the winning team, the University of Waterloo, put out an impressive run, performing 3,481.9 miles to the imperial gallon. Well, I think this definitely is the most unusual looking vehicle at the competition.
Yeah, it's got a horn, working horn and signals and a rear brake light, so you can almost take this guy out in the street.
Well, maybe, but not in this century. I'm Sandra Neal from Motoring 88.
How many miles a gallon? Say about 30 miles a gallon?
I don't know, about 20, 25 maybe?
Bad question. About 18, maybe?
Quite a few. I'm not sure exactly how many it is, but it's a lot.
About 25. And I've got a Lincoln Town car. That's the way you drive, I guess.
I don't know, it's brand new.
Fasten your seatbelts because the jet cars are preparing to take off, and we'll have it later for you on Motoring 88.
Next on Motoring 88, taking a spin in the new Lincoln.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, come back here, final offer! The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
Well, once again, it's time for Test Drive, and once again, guess who's late? That's right, Graham. But you know he does this on purpose. He's a bit of a show-off. He likes to make a grand entrance. Wonder when he's going to show up this week. Guess who's here? Graham, never a dull moment on Test Drive with you. What are we test driving today?
Brand new Lincoln Continental.
Wait a minute, Lincoln Continental. Now, I think of a Lincoln Continental, I think of that big wheel on the trunk, and I didn't see one.
Now, not only is it missing, but also this is the first front-wheel drive Lincoln they've ever produced. The vehicle's also equipped with anti-lock brakes, which should be great for the brake test. And as you might expect, this is a true six-seater, so there's plenty of legroom up front and in the back.
So it seems to have all the features you'd expect from a luxury car like a Continental.
Most definitely.
Well, let's begin the test drive.
Okay, our first test with the Lincoln is going to be the acceleration time. With this vehicle, I'm not looking for anything too spectacular, given it's a heavy vehicle and only a V6, but let's see what it'll do. Late 12s, which isn't bad, really. Our second test on the Lincoln is going to be the brake test. I'm looking for big things from this car because of the anti-lock brake system. It has the potential to bring the vehicle to a stop in the minimum distance. Hang on, Brad, I'm going to hit the brakes.
Whoa!
That clicking noise you can hear is the ABS actually working. For our third and final test in the Lincoln on the skid pan, we're going to run through the cones. This car is unique in the fact that it uses an all-airbag suspension. And when you start to whip the steering wheel like we're doing now, feel the suspension hunker down?
Oh, yeah.
That was quite nice, quite smooth. Well, Brad, every week I have my pet peeve, and this week is no exception. This week, it's the digital dash and the fact that it washes out in bright sunlight. Apart from that, this is, for my money, the finest North American road sedan available. Let's now go to the scoreboard and find out how the Lincoln actually fared. Braking. I awarded an exceptionally high 8 out of 10 because of the anti-lock brake system. For a large car, the Lincoln is very nimble, and at 12.9 to the 100-kilometer mark, it's reasonable, but I think it should have been better. 64 decibels is very quiet, and for a large car, the fuel economy is superb.
Next week, Graham will check out a Saab 9000 Turbo.
The ultimate in ultraviolet protection? Perhaps. But more significantly, a device which we will use to indicate the importance of eliminating blind spots. Later on Behind the Wheel.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, Bill Gardiner looks for hidden trouble.
With me right now is Izzy Moses, who along with his brother David own these two Firebirds. And Izzy, you do more than just drive these cars around. Tell us about it.
You better believe it, Brad. When we first started out, we were just selling supplies to restore these old cars. But now we're getting people from all over Canada looking to have one of these as their own personal set of wheels. And we're bringing cars back from California. People are bringing their own cars in to have them restored. And some of these people are spending up to $20,000 to get one of these things on the road back to the way they used to be.
Does nostalgia have a lot to do with this when people buy cars like these?
I think that's the biggest thing. People in their 30s never had the money to buy one, but now they've got the money and they feel they'd like to restore them, bring them back some memories from a long, long time ago.
I imagine you do your own work under the hood.
Yes, we do. It's just so basic and simple. Anybody with a little bit of mechanical knowledge could take on anything under that hood.
I could be that exception, but I know somebody who isn't that exception, and that's our mechanic on Motoring 88, Bill Gardiner. And although this isn't exactly your normal used car, Bill this week helps us look for a used car.
Okay, if you're satisfied with the appearance of the car, the next thing you want to do is take it for a test drive and see if it's got good power, if it idles smoothly, it doesn't pull to one side or the other, and it just seems to run well. And if you don't find any problems there, then you don't necessarily have to go looking for a lot of hidden gremlins. One of the first things you want to do to check the engine out is take the oil filler cap off, flip it over, look at the bottom side, check it for any sludge or any accumulation of moisture, and get your finger down inside the valve cover, with the engine off of course, and wipe the side of the valve cover inside, bring your finger back out, and see what you got. Now this one's got a lot of solids in there, a lot of sludge, and that could be an indication that the car hasn't had regular oil changes or that there's an internal engine problem. In any case, it's not too good. What you do want to see when you look in there and wipe the inside of that valve cover is just an oily film. And if that's the case, then the engine's had regular oil changes and it's probably in real good shape. The automatic transmission is another thing you want to check on the used car. This should be done with the car idling in park or neutral. It's written right on the dipstick where it's to be checked. Now, the fluid should be a bright red color. This one's a little bit brownish, it's a little bit discolored, so it's got a lot of miles and it's seen a lot of heat. That fluid's a little bit darker than it should be. Another thing that you want to check is the smell of the transmission fluid, and you want to make sure that it's not a burnt or charred smell to that fluid. If it is, that could be an indication that the car's pulled a trailer or had a cooling system deficiency that's allowed the transmission to overheat and start to burn itself out. Well, you don't want to be fooled by a clean air filter element. Have a look inside this housing, take the filter out, and make sure that no dirt or grit has got on the inboard side of the filter onto the top of the carburetor, because from there it goes straight in the engine and causes wear. So any dirt in this area could be an indication that the car's being run without an air filter or a poor quality or incorrect fitting air filter. You also want to look in the bottom of the housing in this area and make sure that there isn't a lot of oil accumulation in here that could have come from the crankcase breather element, and that could be an indication that the car's got worn piston rings or some gaskets that are blown in the engine, causing oil to back up into this filter cavity. Front-wheel drive cars have a number of different items to be checked. Here's what you want to check: the constant velocity drive joint in here and the corrugated boot that protects it. Should be no rips or tears in this corrugated rubber or plastic boot that could allow water, dirt, road grit to get inside that joint and ruin that constant velocity joint that's inside there. Obviously we can't dissect somebody else's car that we're thinking of buying. But these are a few things we've showed you this week that you can check quickly and easily without a lot of tools and get yourself a good indication of whether or not you want to buy that used car. Next week we're going to look at the inner workings of the cooling system and in particular the radiator. Until then, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Well, finally I can take these things off and get into the content of today's segment, which is on blind spots. Many people think it is a good idea that when you are driving down the road and about to change lanes, that you should do a shoulder check looking to your side to make certain that there is no one there. There are several problems we have with this. The first of which is that as you move your head and your shoulders, the steering wheel tends to turn a little bit, causing your car to wander on the road in a direction where you're not even looking. This, of course, is the major problem with which we very much disagree, in that when you are checking to eliminate the blind spot that is beside your car, a whole new blind spot in front of you is being created. This problem is so significant, we would like to investigate if there is not a way of curing that problem. Let us consider that if you have either replaced your mirrors with ones that will work properly, or if you have taken the existing mirrors in your car and have adjusted them, you should be able to follow the progress of me as I walk totally across the back of this car. Now we have adjusted the angle of the lens of the camera to the angle of the mirrors, and I am now standing at a point about 8 feet diagonally off the corner of the rear left bumper of the car. I will now start to move across the rear of the car, and let's just see if you cannot follow my progress all the way across in the mirrors of the car. I am now 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot, and now even with the back corner, moving to the center of the car and off to the right-hand corner of the car, and I am now 1 foot off, 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet off the corner of the car. We submit that if you have been able to follow my progress all the way across the rear of that car, there is no reason when you're driving you should ever have to look backward. And as for these things, well, I'll tell you, let's just keep these for Halloween. And why not join us next week on Behind the Wheel when we will do a new segment on cornering.
Probably air conditioning, cruise control, most of the toys.
Just that it's well built, basically.
Comfortable seats, a large boot, and very good mileage.
Looks, mainly looks. I'm a young yuppie and I want to look good. I drive a convertible BMW, so.
Nothing in particular. I just wanted something with 4 wheels and drives.
Up next on Motoring 88, Grounded Planes, the jet cars.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State IndyCar performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, back here, my oil! The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
You're listening to 400 cubic inches of Pontiac power, and yes, I couldn't resist getting behind the wheel, but as you can see, owner David Moses is keeping a close eye on me. Up now, Steve Grant, and if these cars aren't fast enough for you, Steve thinks he's found some that are.
If drag racing is your game, then there are 2 things you have to get used to in a hurry. The smell of burning rubber, and oh yeah, the noise. The beauty of drag racing is that anyone can compete. All you need is 4 wheels, a gas pedal, and a safe vehicle.
I've been involved with drag racing now for about 18 years, both in North America and Australia. We started originally in Australia in the mid-60s.
Take away the decals and Wally Clark's car looks like the Camaro up the street.
Well, that's the idea of our class. We run in a super stock category, in which you have to make the car stock appearing, and that's about where it ends. There's a lot of modifications. The engine is a transplant from an earlier car, and they're just a lot of fun.
The street rods are quick, but when it comes to filling the seats, nothing compares to the jet cars. People don't get to see jet cars every day. Tell me about your vehicle.
It's a dragster style, the long skinny rail style, and it's 27 feet long, weighs 1,350 pounds, and it's powered by an engine that's normally used in a trainer fighter plane, an F-5 Freedom Fighter in the United States. I've run 287 in the car. That's the fastest I've ever run, with an elapsed time of 5.49 seconds, which is a record for jet cars. We're still always trying to go quicker and faster, but sometimes the weather affects that. So today we'll be running a little slower than we did last night when we ran 278.
This is Northern Force, the car that Bob Elliott is racing this weekend. It looks a little bit like a Chevy, but when you raise the hood on this, you see that it's much more than a car. Jet.
Well, it's kind of unique, Steve, because it's the only jet funny car, first of all, in Canada, and I'm the only licensed driver in Canada to drive one of these cars. Basically, what we have here is a jet fighter aircraft engine, complete with an afterburner and all the trick stuff, bolted into a chrome moly chassis that's helium arc welded with a fiberglass body on top. The whole assembly weighs 1,600 pounds.
Now, what does it feel like to go 269 miles per hour on four wheels?
Tough question. Things happen fast. What you're doing is really trying to get a peripheral vision of everything that's happening as you're going down the racetrack.
It's a little better than a 3G launch, 1G being 1 times the weight of your body pushing against your body. In this case, if I leave with my helmet off to the side, I can't move my head back.
Like when you go to the airport and you get on a jet and you're gonna take off, the feeling that you get, the sensation you get as it pushes you back in the seat when the jet's leaving the runway, this is about 25 times greater.
I believe 270 is probably bordering on becoming dangerous. And at 270 miles an hour, when we pull the parachutes, this car will wheel stand 2 and 3 feet sometimes, and that just goes with the deal. So I think we're approaching the maximum speeds. Elapsed time-wise, I think we can probably safely run the cars into the 5.5 second area.
Okay, Bob, what's going through your mind at this point?
Well, the big thing, Steve, is to make sure that we've checked everything. We've turned the burner pressure up to try to get the car into the 5 second area, and right now I'm just hoping we haven't turned it up too much and we're going to have a flame out or something like that, because even though we're in competition and we're trying to go fast, we do have to put on a show, and getting down the track is part of the show.
Okay, what time are you going out to beat this time?
We ran 6:01. We hold the record at 6:01. I would really like to get the car into the 5 second area at 270 miles an hour or better.
All right, we'll see you at the end of a quarter mile.
You betcha, we'll be there.
Bob, 607, but more importantly, 272 miles per hour. You have the fastest jet car anywhere now, I guess.
We sure do, Steve. And I'll tell you what, it felt like it on that run. I could feel the G-force, and when the parachute hit, I come up in the seat, and I knew it was a good one.
Another day at the races.
Another day at the races.
Next week on Motoring 88.
It's definitely exciting, that's for sure. The glamour part, which I never really thought was in there. I think I've been involved in sports too long to think it was glamorous.
What we wish to do is eliminate the problem that most people think that on a left-hand bend, they should be well over here on the left-hand side of the road, which represents security.
Well, we've learned how to save fuel, and we've certainly learned how to burn it this week, and we've got a lot more coming your way, but it'll have to wait until next week. So make sure you join us for more of Motoring 88. As for Dave and Izzy, they're going to help us close the show Motoring 1969 style.
If you have any questions or suggestions, drop us a line at Motoring 88, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.